Ladies and gentlemen, today is March 14th, 2014, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 175. I'm your host, Kenan Lafferty, and today we're jumping back into our Diablo 3 piece for the upcoming release of Reaper of Souls. And I do have to apologize, sorry I didn't get you guys an episode yesterday, but the good news is I'm probably going to be either recording 2 episodes in a row, or maybe we'll just do the whole thing right now. Maybe we'll do a grand finale for all the coloring. In fact, I'm thinking that sounds pretty dang good. Maybe we'll just do that. We'll just do that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. For those of you who are curious of the final product, it is right here. And you can also click the link down below if you're watching this on YouTube to go to the magical land of DeviantArt, and you can view it high-res for yourself. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the time-lapse. And we got a lot of time-lapse to do, so I'm just gonna let it roll. I'm gonna let it roll, and I'm probably just gonna blab about a bunch of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the task at hand, but that's the way we do it on the show. So yeah, sorry I didn't get a show out yesterday, but yeah, gonna be doing 2 parts or just doing the whole thing right now. In fact, I'm probably gonna be doing that. You might be curious about the lighting scheme. What's going on? What is this weird bluish, almost daylight? I'm actually recording this in the middle of the day. What is up with that? Well, the cool thing about doing the dailies in the way that we do them now is I can actually record them whenever we want. I do miss doing the live shows, and I actually am looking into a way that we can still do a live show every now and then. I was thinking like a really good, like a happy medium would be possibly just to do tutorials and shows like we normally do, pre-recorded Monday through Wednesday, or just the usual, Monday through Thursday. And then maybe one of those days would be like a live Q&A or something like that. So, but that's all in the works. Again, stuff we can worry about later. And yeah, back there you can see in the background, that is my fridge. That is where I get food. And I decided to just leave the door open so you can see into the hallway of my life. The hallway of my life. But I digress. Let's go ahead and get into what we're doing here. So, yesterday I talked a lot about manual masking and how if you do it, I will slap you. And then, of course, I go on to do manual masking. But regardless, the point is that I don't want you to manual mask the silhouette. The main character mask, do not manual mask that. And what's really cool here is if you look over on this side, you can see all these arrows pointing down, pointing down. What is that all about? Well, that basically means that I'm creating clipping masks. I'm clipping mask all of these layers back to that original silhouette or character mask, as I call it. And that means when you go in and you add in when you start manual masking, you no longer have to worry about going outside of the lines. You don't have to worry about any of that. So naturally, when you're working with the edges, and that's what I really like about it, like with this hair, and I'll show you guys this in real time in a second. I mean, you guys have seen me do it millions of times. Maybe you don't need that. But especially because we're doing like friggin' half an hour, 40 minutes of time-lapse today. But anyway, see, you can see me doing it here. Like, on all the edges, I don't have to worry about going outside of the lines because I've already character masked it. I've already silhouette masked it. And that makes us oh so happy. Another thing you might be noticing is that I'm not really worrying too much about the colors that I'm picking at this point, right? It's like, okay, well, here's some orange, here's like some red, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like I'm not worrying too much about the color scheme as of right now. All I'm doing is I'm still preparing the piece, masking things out so that way they will be very easy to work with as we go forward. So, and as a general rule, I like to paint all of my masks pretty dark at first. Like you'll notice it feels like everything's sort of like in shadow. And I do that just because it's a lot easier to paint light onto a dark color than it is to paint. I used to paint light colors and then paint the shadows on. And I don't know, I just feel like it's like a backwards way to do it. If it works for you, that's great. You try it my way. It might not work for you as good as it does for me. What if it did? What if it did? Try it out for yourself, see how it works. Alright, so now I'm going to begin adding some color, kind of messing around with how I want to color this piece. And very quickly, you will see that I am going to start incurring a little bit of trouble. And the reason why I'm going to start incurring trouble is because I'm trying to basically save time by not doing a color comp. And a color comp is basically what you do when you take the entire picture, you shrink it down really, really small, and then you basically figure out what your color palette is going to be for the whole picture. And so, me, myself, I'm saying, oh no, you know, I want to finish this thing like right now. I want to finish it by tomorrow. So I'm not going to worry about a color palette. That's going to take another, it takes like an hour to do. I'll just save the hour, and I'll just go straight into figuring out the colors as I go. I'll just fly by the seat of my pants and make up the colors as I go. And this is probably one of the best ways to end up getting really ticked off really quickly, because your colors just they're not going to have any foundation. It's like if someone walked up to you and they're like, hey, what are you building there? And you're like, oh, I'm building a house, right? And you're just like you're just like nailing two boards together. And like, oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Can I see the blueprints? And then you're just like, what do you mean? There's no plan, there's no blueprints, right? Someone catches you doing that, building a house without blueprints, they'll freaking take you away to a safer place, right? They'll put you in a nice little padded cell where you can't hurt anybody, no hammer, no nails, and you just sit there for the rest of your life. So that is why it is very important. In fact, that's a good analogy, because as I was working without the color piece, or without the color comp, I started feeling like I was going crazy. Like every single time I do a picture without a plan, it's really weird how this works, but there's a direct correlation with like getting frustrated with a piece and not planning it out beforehand. Like if the biggest reoccurring thing that I hope you guys are understanding by watching these is that when I started this picture, it was literally just a sketch. It was just a sketch. I did tons and tons of thumbnails. I didn't sit down and start drawing out these characters. The reason why they look like this and the reason why they fit well together and the composition is there and the flow is there is not because I just got lucky. And you don't just build an amazing house by luck. You're like, whew, man, that was really lucky. We got lucky with that one. I mean, you can do a little bit of, improvising and stuff as you go along, but the plan, setting down the plan and setting down the foundation in the beginning is essential. And I really hope that you guys go back and watch the beginning parts. This is part, I don't know, it's like 9 or 10. But regardless, please go back and check out the beginning of this. And I'm actually thinking about compiling everything into one big time lapse, but I don't know. I personally probably won't do it. I've got somebody who's going to be doing video editing and stuff for me now, so I'll probably just pass that along to him, see what he can do with it. Alright, so now that I've gone sufficiently loony, I've been taken away to the loony bin, taken away to the insane asylum. Now I sit there for probably about a day, right, in my straitjacket, and then I think to myself, I probably should have done some color comps. So now I'm going to pull this piece in, and this is exactly what I'm doing. See, I took that piece, all the masks, and I shrunk them down really, really small. And now I'm going to begin just coloring, right? Coloring very, very quickly. Just laying down rough colors. See exactly what I'm doing here? This is an essential piece. This is you drawing up the blueprints for your finalized house. And if you don't do this, you will die of craziness, of your head, of your brain turning to poop. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Alrighty. So yeah, so I'm just kind of playing around with this. I can see it in my head. I knew I saw it in my head because the background, I wanted it all to be very kind of cool colors, lots of blues and kind of grays, desaturated stuff. And then as you go into the monks, they have like a lot of oranges and warm colors around them. And this girl is going to be like radiating light. So your vision is naturally just going to be pulled in. The focal points are going to be pulled into these two characters. But I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it. So now it makes it really easy to do it this way because it's nice, quick, and rough. And sometimes you can come up with like color relationships that you just can't do it when you're working on the final piece because you're working with all these masks. They're all like already cut out and everything, and it just takes way too long to experiment. That like by the time that you're sitting down to the final piece with all the masks all cut out, the time for experimenting is gone. So you need to make sure that you experiment in the beginning right here with these rough colors, these rough ideas. Okay? Then you'll start to get like these little bits of color, like, oh, I like how kind of that orange right there kind of sticks out. And I like that little bit of red in the darkness, right? It just kind of like sticks out right there. And those things just, sometimes they'll happen by accident if I don't do this. But really, it really is luck. Like it's basically playing Russian roulette with your piece. If you get lucky, then that's great. But if you don't, you will mess the whole thing up. And you'll have to start all over again. And then it's just a waste. Because this, seriously, this takes about, I don't know, I probably worked on this for maybe 30, 45 minutes. And then I did a little bit of the second one too. I was like, let me just humor myself and I'll do like a yellow background. Even though we've got warm characters and then warm background. I wonder how that'll work. But I was really, really confident with this one. So I just kept going with it, And then other little things happen, like, oh man, I like how I did the shadows on these goat men in the background with like these reds and these purples. And now I'm adding a little bit more desaturation in the background, seeing how that looks. You know, and here I am just kind of messing around with these other two. I was like, oh, let's make it like a sunset. And now Malthael is like a pink Grim Reaper thing. I don't know. Add a little bit of overpainting, like the effects of this guy getting kicked. And then Malthael's wings. And voila! You have saved your life. You have saved your life and many of those around you lives. You've saved lives, okay? That's the point I'm trying to make here. Okay, so now that you have your color comp, now all I'm doing is I've placed it in the top, now it's the left, but it was the top right. Just place it in your piece, in a corner, right? Somewhere where it's going to be out of your way. And then what's really, really cool about this is that you can compare your color comp, which is over there, to your navigator bar, which is right there. Isn't that awesome? And you can basically say, okay, do these colors right here, do these colors line up with these colors? And I don't know, I just find that a really, really handy thing to do because the navigator automatically shrinks down your piece for you, and then you can just compare the colors. And that makes me so happy, so happy. And here's what I'm talking about, like the little things, like this green in the light. I don't know if I end up using it, but like I just like the. Actually, I did use a little bit of green in the light in the final piece, but like those things just wouldn't normally happen. It's almost like an accident, and you're like, hey, that works really great. Let's bring that into the final piece. I like the correlation and the relationship between those two things. And so we do that, and it makes us oh so happy. All right. Now we are on Monk Marketing 10. Whoa, we still got a couple clips to go through. My voice is probably going to be gone at the end of this. I'm just letting you know. But that's all good. That's all good. So let's go ahead and get into what we are doing now. We have laid in all of our colors, and now we're moving into a stage that I like to call overpainting. Overpainting, which is right here. See, right there on that layer? Notice what it's named. OP, face. It's not because this face is OP. Well, other than that, besides the face, it's just overpaint. OP means overpaint. And that basically means, the way that I like to work, I like to give the analogy, the analogy of, it's like an animation cell, or metaphor. I mix up analogy and metaphor all the time. Okay, but anyway, animation cell. You got the lines in the front, you got colors in the back, okay? That's how you start. And then you color the lines to the point where it kind of makes them disappear a little bit. Like, I usually like to color, see these lines over here? See how they're colored kind of like a reddish? It allows them to sort of blend with the skin a little bit easier. And then that's going to help us with the transition to the overpainting stage. So you've got your colored lines, color behind them, and then you go in front with your overpainting. And that means you're laying down the law. Everything that you paint on this layer is what is going to be seen in the final piece. And this can be also a very, very challenging, and you have to be sort of patient with yourself on these parts, because I mean, the way that I originally laid this out with the colors, I mean, you're going to see me like freaking repaint this girl's face like over and over and over and over again. Like just like making small adjustments to the nose, small adjustments to the lips. In fact, I end up redrawing this entire mouth. I actually take the mouth, I make it bigger, and then I make her teeth just like more gridded. Because the expression that I gave her, it looked nice, but I'm a huge fan of just like believable expressions. Like a way to like sell the expression and make it look super awesome and still retain like the natural beauty of the girl's face. And I knew that this was going to be a major focal point in the piece, so I wanted to make sure that I did a good job here. I had a feeling that, you know, if I make this face look good and I just make the front, you know, the main focal point, the girl look good, then everything else can just like kind of flow around it and complement it, as well as the guy. I end up making the guy look good. And here's the funniest part, is like this always happens. I go ahead and I paint the guy, and he just turns out perfectly. Like literally the first like overpaint layer that I do, I just paint his face. I'm just like, that's it? Man, that was easy, and he looked freaking awesome. And he looked better than the girl, like in terms of just the style and everything. So I end up going back and doing a little bit more touch-ups on the girl. So, yeah. Something that I'm constantly doing is just, I try to compare the painted face back to the original line art or the sketch, because I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of emotion that's captured when it's just lines, and when you paint a face, you're literally taking it from line art, from 2D, and you are translating it into what appears to be 3D, because now it's lit. It's lit from so many different angles. You've got primary and secondary and rim light and all this stuff happening. Subsurface scattering, which is basically a fancy way of saying when the light enters your skin, it bounces around your blood vessels and kind of glows red. I'm sure you guys have seen this when you're sitting under a tree at the park. Next time you do this, watch this. Like, there's a cast shadow from the sun or anything hitting your skin. Notice how the shadow that goes across your arm or anywhere on your body, it actually has like a reddish glow around it. And that's basically from the light entering your skin, being refracted, and then kind of like pushed back out again. It has a red glow around the shadow, which is freaking awesome. Moving on to this. What I just talked about, I'm doing here. I've got the line art right there, and I'm just making sure that the face is translating over, right? Face is translating over. And then later what I realize is, hey, that face could be improved upon. This face up here could have been improved upon. I do like it. I still like it. But like I said, sometimes there's like small adjustments that I have to make whenever I go from line art to fully rendered and just sculpted and lit. So, yeah. And I'm just making small little adjustments. And every time you see your face kind of like flickering, that's me kind of like comparing two things. Like I might make a slight modification to the cheek or a slight modification to the mouth. And I just come over here and I like click the little eyeball, right? Just like punch that little eyeball out. And then just like click it over and over and over again and see which one looks better. I just kind of compare them. Flipping the canvas also really, really helps with this because it gives you fresh eyes upon your work. So, alright, moving on to the next part. I probably am going to split this up into two different episodes. Because we are going. And I really like this lighting scheme. I should record more. I should record more dailies in this style. Midday with a nice blue light. Alright, so now I'm going to start moving on to the materials and just the painting of the rest of her costume here. And starting with, yeah, the belt and just like the whole chest area. I was having a lot of trouble like with this ball thing here because I was like, that looks really uncomfortable. Like if that was just like laying on your chest. I mean, I'm not a girl, but I'm just assuming. I was like, we should probably like move that up a little bit so it's more like resting on her sternum as opposed to right on her boobs. Because that would not be nice for her. Anyway. But yeah, just kind of having some fun. I spent a lot of time, like I said, on the girl. Because I knew that she was going to be attracting a lot of attention. And I just like to make the girls look pretty. So, yes. We will be moving on to the male right now. Let's go ahead and do that. At least I think we will be. Oh! The next thing, what I do right here at the beginning of this, I want you guys to pay attention. Because this is probably about the point where I started getting really, really pissed off. Because it just wasn't turning out exactly like I wanted it to. Like, I just didn't like I don't know, I just felt like, you see how all of her values are all kind of just like mushed together? Even though she's lit and everything, she still feels really flat to me. And the exposure trick, basically the exposure trick that I was trying to pull off here was, hey, there's a super bright light behind her. And whenever that happens, much like when you look in a bright light, your pupils will shrink down. And it limits the amount of light that will go into your eyes. So all of the shadows that you would see under normal lighting conditions now become darker. Does that make sense? Because now the light from the shadows, what little light was there, now you can see even less of it. So I was really trying to make sure that her shadows, right, and this is how I go about fixing it. I add a multiply mask to her shadows to like increase the contrast between what's lit and what's not, because your eyes are shrinking down, right? So what appears to be the normal local color will now be contrasted with a super, super dark shadow. And that helps sort of trick your eyes into believing that, oh, that light is really, really bright. So, now, moving on to the monk mail. Monk mail. And I am feeling very good, very good. I'm probably just going to record the second episode right after this, as opposed to just putting them together. I don't know. Well, we do have, I mean, this is number 12. 13, 14, 15. It's probably another like 20 minutes after this. And this clip alone is 4 minutes. So, yeah. I'm going to separate the two. I'm going to take a little break after this one, and then I will come back. I'll probably just upload this one. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, the next one will probably be up in probably about an hour or two, because our internet here really, really sucks. It really sucks. It's just good enough for me to do all of my work and like upload my videos, but it's bad enough that I can't play any games. Like The Last of Us multiplayer is now a thing of the past. World of Warcraft barely runs, and my little brother is always playing it. I don't know if I could play with him, and I don't even have any more game time on that thing. But basically put, like, I think it's so funny just how stuff happens like that. I move into this new apartment, everything is perfect except for the internet, right? It's literally, it's 1.5 megabytes. 1.5, or megabits, excuse me, megabits download, and it's 0.3 upload. And for anybody who's tech savvy or knows what that means, that's pretty bad, especially for this day and age. So, yeah, no more video games for Keenan. All I can do is, and all I can do now is just sit around and be productive. All I can do is sit around and make stuff like this, and make my comic, and read books. So, yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. So, yeah, I've been having a lot of fun though. I've been having a lot of fun, and I am grateful. I am grateful for what I have. And yeah, can't wait for next month, because we're going out to Anaheim. Woo! We're going out to the Anaheim Convention Center, which is the same place that they host BlizzCon. And we're going there for WonderCon, which is the baby brother of San Diego Comic-Con. So we are making our way up in the ranks very, very quickly. Our reception of Emma was like really good. I mean, I know this is a complete crazy tangent, but I figure you guys, if you don't want to hear me talk, you can just hit that mute button. The power is in your hands. Power is in your hands. As I stutter. Power is in your hands to make you stop stuttering. But anyway, huge tangent time. You can just watch this as it goes. But Comic-Con, the WizardCon in Sacramento was so awesome. It was so awesome. Like, people loved the comic. People loved like the stuff that we were selling, the awesome prints. And yeah, I was really surprised though. Like, there was something that I found really, really interesting about the Comic-Con, and that was that there wasn't a lot of people like representing video games there. Like, it was all just like X-Men and Marvel and like maybe some Lego movie stuff and like a bunch of like slutty Disneyland characters, you know. But other than that, like, there was no Last of Us. There was no, there's hardly any Mario Brothers. There's like Sonic, Earthworm Jim, you know, all these games that I used to love. Metal Slug. There's all these things that I want to do fan art of and like make cool prints of for these conventions. Because I feel like not a lot of people are doing video game stuff at these things. And maybe they're not doing it because it doesn't have that big of a following. I don't know. But I want to start doing more of that stuff. And I'm really happy that the reception of Emma has been so great at these Comic-Cons. And with that, we're going to go ahead and begin wrapping up what we're doing. As you can see here, I'm using a little bit of spatter brush to create, I always love doing this. I use my spatter brush to create like freckles across the face. And I use it on the transitions of the skin as well to kind of just give it a little bit of that, I don't know, just like kind of a, I don't know what that word is. Like, it almost looks like a textured kind of pearlescent look on the skin. It looks really, really beautiful. And it's so simple too. So simple to do. Simple to do, and it makes a big difference. Alrighty then, people. So that takes us back to the beginning. Let's go ahead and call that good. For now, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break. And when I come back, we are going to go into the second half of this, and I'll show you via time-lapse how we got to this point. And then we'll do a couple closing thoughts on from beginning to end series. So you guys take care of yourselves. I'll see you in about an hour or two if you're watching this on YouTube. Till then, you guys take care.